My name is Soren. I am 33 years old and Omega. For 3 years, I have been the only adult in a house with 4 sons. I check the locks twice before bed. I pack lunches in the dark. I have taught myself to read every room I enter because the man who taught me that skill disappeared before I could thank him. His name is Cormac. I had been watching the guest list for the charity auction for 3 weeks. I knew he might be there. I had not decided what I would do if he was. Last Tuesday, my sons made the decision for me. Let me take you back. I teach my sons to watch rooms. Not because I want them to be suspicious, because I want them to be safe. It is a habit I learned from a man I worked with for 3 years, a man who could walk into any space and tell you within minutes who was pretending and who was not. He taught me to look for the ones who were watching instead of performing. I taught my sons the same method. Fen, my oldest, is 7. He is the one who carries the habit most seriously. He takes notes, makes lists, observes with a seriousness that breaks my heart. The twins, Yago and Nico, are 6. They follow Fen's lead but add their own observations. Yago watches hands, Nico watches exits. Kit is 4. He watches people's faces when they think no one is looking. They are good at it, too good. On Tuesday evening, I had a meeting with a client that ran late. I asked Fen to keep his brothers at the coat check of the terminal where the auction was being held, a public space, well lit, with security at both entrances. I told him I would be 20 minutes. I was 23 minutes. When I walked in, the coat check area was empty. I did not panic. I had trained them for this. I scanned the room. I saw them at the far end of the terminal, near the fire exit. 4 small figures around a table where a man sat alone with a black coffee. I stopped in the doorway. Not hesitation, assessment. I knew the shape of his shoulders before I saw his face. I knew the way he sat, angled toward the exit, hands flat on the table, coffee untouched. I knew the way he watched the room without appearing to watch. 3 years. And I would have known him in any room, in any city, in any life. Cormac. I did not run to him. I walked. I kept my pace steady. I kept my face neutral. When I reached the table, my sons were standing in a loose formation around him. Fen had placed a folded piece of paper in front of Cormac. Kit had set something beside his coffee cup, the compass. The broken compass that Fen had found in a flea market 2 years ago and insisted was still good for finding things. Fen looked up when he saw me. He did not look guilty. He looked satisfied. "Dad," he said, "we found him." I did not ask what that meant. I did not need to. "Cormac," I said. "Soren." 3 years of silence in 2 syllables. His voice was the same. Lower, maybe rougher, but the same. "I need to get my sons home," I said. "Yes," he said. "You do." He did not stand. He did not explain why he was here. He just sat there, holding the compass Kit had given him, watching me with those eyes that had always seen too much. I should have taken my sons and left. I should have walked away, but I saw what was on the paper Fen had given him. 12 names. Every adult at the auction. Assessed. Next to 11 of them, performing. Next to Cormac's name at the bottom, a question mark. My handwriting was not on that paper, but my method was. The method I had taught them, using the method Cormac had taught me. My sons had found him using the only thing he ever gave me. If you have ever walked into a room knowing someone you lost might be there, and hoped they would see you before you had to decide whether to see them, you understand why I stopped in the doorway. I did not tell Cormac that I had seen the guest list. I did not tell him that I had known there was a chance he would be here. I did not tell him that I had dressed carefully, not for the client meeting, but for the possibility of this moment. I just stood there, watching him hold my son's broken compass, and waited for him to say something that would tell me whether he had come back to stay or had simply passed through. He did not say anything. He stood up and held out the compass to Kit. "Keep it," he said. "It's yours." Kit did not take it. "It doesn't work, not the way it's supposed to, but it still works for what we need." Cormac looked at the compass, then at Kit, then at me. He put the compass in his pocket. The boys moved toward the exit. Fen took Kit's hand. The twins followed. I stayed. 3 years, I said. "Yes." "You disappeared." "Yes." Not even a message. Cormac did not answer. His jaw tightened. That was all. "I know," he said. I waited for more. He did not offer it. And then Piers walked past us. I felt him before I saw him, the familiar scent of expensive cologne and cheaper intentions. He did not stop. He did not acknowledge me. He walked directly to the far end of the room where a tall man in a dark suit was standing. Stellan Rourke. I had seen Rourke's name on the guest list. I had been tracking his network for 6 months. I had not told anyone. Piers leaned in and spoke to Rourke. Rourke looked at me, then at Cormac. A photograph was taken. A device changed hands. I knew exactly what Piers had done. "That man," Cormac said. "Who is he?" "Piers, my son's other father. The one who left when they were infants because 4 was too much structure." I paused. Then I said the words I had been dreading since I walked into this room. "He just told Rourke that you and I have history, and that you are connected to me through my sons." Cormac looked at Piers, then at Rourke. Then he moved. I had forgotten how fast he was. He crossed the room before I could blink, caught the man in the grey suit by the wrist, and took the device. I watched him delete the photograph. I watched him hand the device back. I watched him say something to the grey-suited man that made the man go pale. Then he walked back to me. "Tell Rourke that if he wants to move against me, he can move against me directly. The children are not part of his business." "You destroyed his leverage," I said. "He'll send more." "Yes, to my house." "Yes." I looked at my sons, waiting by the exit with the patience of children who had learned that adults sometimes need time to decide things. I looked at Cormac. "You are coming home with us," I said. "Tonight." I did not ask. I did not explain. I simply turned and walked toward my sons, expecting him to follow. He followed. The car was quiet. Kit fell asleep against Fenn's shoulder. The twins stared out the windows. Fenn watched the rearview mirror. I did not look at Cormac. I did not need to. I could feel him in the passenger seat, his scent, his presence, the familiar weight of him in my space after 3 years of absence. I had forgotten what it felt like to have someone beside me in the dark. The house was dark when we arrived. I had left the porch light on. The boys unbuckled themselves without being asked. Fenn carried Kit inside. The twins followed, checking the street before they went through the door. I stood on the porch. Cormac stood beside me. "There's a guest room," I said. "Top of the stairs, second door. I know where it is." I looked at him. "You've never been here." "I know where it is. I've seen the blueprints. You filed them with the city when you bought the house." I did not know what to do with that information. He had kept track. He had watched. He had not contacted me, but he had watched. "You kept track of the blueprints." I let the silence answer for me. Cormac looked at me. It was the first time he had met my eyes directly since I walked into that room. "Of you," he said. "I kept track of you." I showed him to the guest room. I left him with a glass of water I did not think he would drink. I went to check on my sons. Fenn was awake. He was sitting up in bed, a flashlight in his hand, the folded list on his lap. "Is he staying?" Fenn asked. I sat on the edge of his bed. "For tonight. Tomorrow too. I don't know." Fenn was quiet. "Then he has the compass. That means he has to stay." "Why?" Fenn looked at me with the seriousness of a child who had been watching adults for too long. "Because he put it in his pocket. He didn't give it back. That means he wants to keep it." I did not have an answer for that. "Go to sleep," I said. "When he leaves again, will you be okay?" I kissed his forehead. "I'll be okay." "Liar," Fenn said, but he turned off the flashlight and closed his eyes. I did not sleep. I lay in my bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to the house settle around me. I could feel Cormac in the guest room. Not through scent, through presence. The weight of another person in a house that had held only my sons and me for 3 years. I checked the locks, front door, back door, windows. Then I walked to the guest room door. It was closed. There was no light underneath. I raised my hand to knock. I lowered it. I stood there for a long time. Then I walked back to my room, lay down, and stared at the ceiling until the morning came. "I need to tell you something about the list." When I found it in Fenn's room the next morning, I turned it over. On the back, in handwriting I had not seen in 3 years, was a single word, "Stay." It was not addressed to me. It was not dated. It was just one word, written in Cormac's hand, on the back of the assessment list my son had given him at the auction. I did not know when he had written it. I did not know if he had written it for Fenn, or for Kit, or for me, but I knew that he had not left. He had not disappeared again. The guest room door was open. The bed was made. The glass of water was untouched. Cormac was in the kitchen, making coffee, with Kit sitting on the counter beside him, holding the compass. "It works now," Kit said. "Does it?" Cormac said. Kit nodded. "It doesn't point north, but it points where we need to go." Cormac looked at me over Kit's head. "I'm not leaving," he said. I did not answer. I just stood in the doorway of my own kitchen, watching a man I had loved and lost and found again make coffee for my son, and let myself believe him. "I need to tell you something about the 6 months before that auction." I had not been idle. Stellan Rourke's network had crossed my path through a restoration contract. My firm was asked to sign heritage documentation for a building that did not exist on any public registry. The proposal was careful, professional, and entirely fraudulent. I declined the contract, but I kept the paperwork. For 6 months, I traced the provenance fraud through shell companies and falsified signatures. I built an audit, careful, legal, damning, that connected Rourke's laundering network to 3 heritage properties, 2 international art dealers, and a shipping lawyer whose name I had seen on Cormac's import documents. I did not know why I kept building it. I told myself it was professional curiosity. I told myself it was because Rourke's network was a threat to the heritage sector. But the truth was simpler. I was building a weapon. I just did not know who I would be holding it with. The morning after the auction, Cormac made breakfast. He did not ask where the pans were. He found them. Kit sat on the counter, compass in hand, narrating every step of the cooking process. Fen sat at the table with the list, adding notes. The twins argued quietly about which cereal was superior. I stood in the doorway and watched. Cormac moved through my kitchen like he had always been there, efficient, quiet. He did not look at me. He did not need to. Rourke's people are watching the house, he said. 2 on the street. 1 in the cafe across from the school. I had noticed them too. I had been noticing them for 3 weeks. I know. Cormac turned. You knew. I've been tracking Rourke's network for 6 months. I know his patterns. I knew he would have eyes on me after I declined the contract. Cormac set down the spatula. What contract? Heritage restoration. A building that doesn't exist. Forged provenance records. He needed someone with my credentials to authenticate a paper trail. You said no. I said no. Then I started building a file. Cormac looked at me. For a long moment, he did not speak. Then he said, You've been tracking him without backup, alone, for 6 months. I've been alone for 3 years. I'm used to it. The words came out sharper than I intended. Cormac did not flinch. Not anymore, he said. I took him to my office. The firm was in a converted warehouse in the Heritage District, exposed brick, iron beams, the kind of space that had been carefully restored by someone who understood what they were doing. My office was on the 3rd floor, windows facing the street, a drafting table in the corner that I used when I needed to think with my hands. Cormac stopped in the doorway. He looked at the walls. I had pinned the entire Rourke network across 2 boards, photographs, documents, connections drawn in red and black ink. It was obsessive. It was meticulous. It was the work of a man who had been preparing for something he did not want to name. You built all of this, Cormac said. Yes, for 6 months. Yes, he walked to the board. His eyes moved across the connections, the shipping lawyer, the Berlin gallery owner, the Rotterdam logistics firm. He stopped at a photograph in the corner. Stellan Rourke, taken at a gala 6 months ago. You knew he would come for you, Cormac said. I knew he would come for someone. I prepared for the possibility that it would be me. Cormac turned. Why didn't you contact me? I had known this question was coming. I had rehearsed the answer. I had prepared a version that was professional, measured, and entirely false. I told the truth instead, because I wanted you to come back on your own. The silence stretched. I knew where you were, I said. I have known for 2 years. I tracked you the same way you tracked me, through public records, through professional networks, through a photograph that appeared in a trade journal 18 months ago. You were in Singapore. You were wearing the watch I gave you. Cormac did not move. I wanted to call you. I wanted to fly to wherever you were and demand an explanation. But I knew that if I came to you, you would never believe I chose you. You would think I was desperate. You would think I had no other options. I paused. I wanted you to choose to come back. I did not know if you would, but I wanted to give you the chance. Cormac stood at the board for a long time. Then he said, I thought about you every day. I did not answer. I told myself it was professional. I told myself I was checking on your safety, but I knew what I was doing. I was watching you live your life from a distance because I could not bring myself to be part of it. He turned. I was protecting you. That was what I told myself. I was protecting you from my world, from the people I worked with, from the dangers that followed me. But the truth, he stopped. The truth is that I was protecting myself. I was afraid that if I came back, you would look at me and see someone who was not worth waiting for. I crossed the room. I stopped in front of him. I waited 3 years, I said. I did not wait because I thought you would come back. I waited because I did not want to move on from someone who never gave me a reason to leave. Cormac's scent shifted. Cedar and smoke and something underneath that I had not smelled in 3 years. Relief. "I'm sorry," he said. "I know. I should have told you why I left. Yes, I was trying to protect you." "I know that too." I looked at the board behind him. Rock's network. 6 months of careful work. A weapon I had built without knowing who would hold it with me. "We have a problem," I said. "Rock knows you're here. He knows the boys are connected to both of us. He will use them. He won't get near them." "I know, but we need to move before he does." Cormac looked at the board. "What do you have?" I walked to my desk. I opened the drawer and pulled out a file 3 inches thick. Everything. The building he uses as a shell property, a condemned heritage site in the industrial district. The provenance records he falsified. The shell companies, the signatures, it is all here. Cormac opened the file. He read for 3 minutes without speaking, then he looked up. "You have enough to destroy him." "Yes. Why haven't you?" I met his eyes, because I was waiting for the right moment, and because I wanted someone to be standing beside me when I sent it. The boys were at school. The house was empty. We worked in my office, side by side, for the first time in 3 years. It was strange. It was familiar. Cormac worked the connections I could not reach. The import routes, the shipping manifests, the physical movement of money that moved through his corridor. I worked the paper trail, the signatures, the forgeries, the institutional failures that had allowed Rock's network to operate. We did not talk about the past. We did not talk about the future. We talked about Rock. But every time Cormac reached across the table for a document, his sleeve pulled up and I saw the watch, cracked face, still running, still on his wrist. I did not mention it. I did not need to. At noon, Cormac's phone buzzed. He looked at it. His expression did not change, but his scent did, a sharp shift that I recognized as alert. "Rock's extraction team is moving," he said. "Where?" "Your house. They're not waiting." I was already on my feet. "The boys are at school." "I know. My operatives are already there." I stopped. "You're what?" Cormac did not look up from his phone. "I have people. I have had people watching your house and the school for 2 years." "I told you I kept track." I did not know whether to be furious or grateful. I chose neither. "What are they doing?" "They're dismantling Rock's team before they reach the perimeter. It will take 8 minutes." I looked at the clock. "The boys get out in 15. They'll be safe. My people will stay until we arrive." I sat back down. My hands were shaking. I did not let him see. "You had people watching my house for 2 years, I said. "And you never told me." "Would you have wanted to know?" I considered the question. "Yes," I said. "No, I don't know." Cormac set down his phone. "I did not tell you because I did not want you to feel watched. I did not want you to feel like I was controlling your life from a distance. He stopped. "I needed to know you were safe. That was all. I needed to know that you and the boys were safe." I looked at him. "You could have just called." "I know. You could have come back. I know. I would have let you." Cormac's breath caught. It was the first time I had seen him lose control of his composure. "I know," he said. "That was why I didn't." 15 minutes later, we picked up the boys from school. Cormac's operatives were invisible. I did not see them, but I saw the absence of Rock's team. The street was clean. The cafe across from the school was empty. Fen ran to the car. He opened the door and saw Cormac in the passenger seat. "You're still here," he said. "I said I would stay." "For how long?" Cormac looked at me. I did not answer. I wanted to see what he would say. "As long as you need me," Cormac said. Fen considered this. Then he climbed into the back seat and buckled his seatbelt. "Good," he said, "because we need you for a while." That night, after the boys were asleep, I found Cormac in the living room. He was sitting on the couch, the compass in his hand, staring at the frozen needle. I sat beside him. "Kit thinks it works now," I said. "He told me." "Does it?" Cormac looked at the compass. "It points where we need to go. That is what he said." "Yes, I don't know where that is." I leaned back on the couch. "Neither do I." We sat in silence. Then Cormac said, "I'm not going to disappear again." "I know." "I mean it, Soren. I'm not leaving." I turned to look at him. The light from the lamp caught the cracked face of the watch. "I know," I said. "I believe you." And for the first time in 3 years, I meant it. The condemned heritage building sat at the edge of the industrial district, 4 stories of crumbling brick and ironwork that had once been a textile mill. I had driven past it a dozen times in the past 6 months, telling myself I was studying the architecture. I had been studying the architecture. I knew every entrance, every stairwell, every window that could be used as an exit. I had drawn the building from memory so many times that the elevations existed in my hands before they existed on paper. I had been preparing for this night without knowing it. Cormac drove. The boys were with a neighbor, a beta woman 3 houses down who thought we were having a date night. I had not corrected her. You have the audit, Cormac asked. In my bag, ready to send. Send it when I give the signal. What signal? Cormac looked at me. You'll know. The building rose in front of us, dark, silent, waiting. Cormac parked half a block away. He killed the engine. You don't have to come inside, he said. Yes, I do. Soren, I built the case. I send the audit. I finish what I started. Cormac looked at me. In the dark of the car, his eyes were unreadable. You've been handling this alone for 6 months, he said. You don't have to handle this part alone too. I opened the car door. I'm not alone, I said. You're here. The building smelled like abandonment, dust and dry rot and the ghost of something chemical. We moved through the ground floor in silence. Cormac took point, his body angled toward every sound, every shadow. I followed the file pressed against my chest. We found Rock on the 3rd floor. He was standing in what had once been the main weaving room, a vast open space with tall windows that let in the moonlight. He was not alone. 4 men stood behind him. Piers was at the edge of the room, his posture careful, his expression unreadable. Rock smiled when he saw us. Mr. Veld, Mr. Estelle, I was wondering when you would arrive. Cormac did not stop moving. He walked to the center of the room and stopped 10 feet from Rock. The children are not part of this. The children are the only reason you are standing here, Rock said. If you had not connected yourself to them, you would have been difficult to find, but you made a mistake. You let yourself care. You made a mistake too, Cormac said. You threatened them. Rock laughed. What are you going to do, Mr. Veld? Kill me in front of witnesses. I don't need to kill you, I just need to hold you here. I felt Cormac's words hit me. He was buying time. I opened my bag. I took out the file. Rock's eyes flickered to me. Mr. Estelle, the architect, I offered you a contract once. You declined. You offered me a fraud. I declined. A fraud that would have made you very wealthy. A fraud that would have made me complicit in money laundering that funds arms trafficking. I have no interest in that kind of money. Rock's expression did not change, but his scent shifted, a sharp edge of something I recognized as threat. You have something for me, he said. I have everything, I said. The provenance records, the forged signatures, the shell companies, the shipping routes, it is all here, and in 10 minutes it will be in the hands of 2 investigative journalists and the Heritage Authority. Rock moved, his men moved with him. Cormac stepped between them and me. You have 60 seconds, Cormac said. Then my operative sends the file. Rock stopped. You're bluffing. I have never bluffed in my life. The room held still. I could feel the weight of every person in it, the threat, the tension, the sharp edge of violence waiting to break. I looked at Piers. He was standing at the edge of the room, watching. He had not spoken. He had not moved toward Rock or away from him. He was waiting to see which side won. I had known Piers for 4 years. I had watched him leave when the twins were born, citing 4 was too much structure. I had watched him drift in and out of the boys' lives, always at a distance, always with an excuse. And now I was watching him stand in a condemned building, on the wrong side of a line he had drawn himself. Piers, I said. He looked at me. The boys asked about you last week. Kit wanted to know if you would come to his birthday. Piers did not answer. I told him no. I told him you had other things to do. Soren, I did not tell him that you sold information to a man who threatened to use my children as leverage. I did not tell him because I want him to be able to grow up without knowing what his other father is capable of. Piers' face went pale. I didn't know. You knew exactly what you were doing. You saw Cormac, you recognized him. You told Rock because you thought it would benefit you. Piers opened his mouth, closed it. Rock laughed again. Mr. Estelle, you are wasting time with a man who has no loyalty to anyone. He sold you for a dinner invitation. He would sell his own children for a better one. I know, I said. That is why I'm not speaking to him. I am speaking to you. I held up the file. I am going to send this in 30 seconds. You can try to stop me, but Cormac's operative is already in position, and if I do not send the signal, the file goes anyway. There is nothing you can do. Rock's smile faded. You are making a mistake, Mr. Estelle. No, I said. I am correcting one I should have made 6 months ago. I sent the file. The sound of my phone hitting send was the loudest thing in the room. Rock moved. His men moved. Cormac met them. I had seen Cormac move before in training, in practice, in the careful choreography of self-defense. I had never seen him move like this. He was not defending, he was dismantling. The first man went down with a blow to the throat. The second met the floor before he finished his swing. The third hesitated, and in that hesitation, Cormac disarmed him and put him on the ground. Rock was alone. He looked at Cormac, at me, at Piers, who had not moved. This is not over, Rock said. It is for you, Cormac said. The sound of sirens rose in the distance. My operative had called the authorities. The file was sent. The building was surrounded. Rock's men were on the ground. Piers was being detained by the first officers through the door. And I was standing in the middle of a condemned heritage building, watching Cormac Veld walk toward me through the dust and the moonlight. "It's done," he said. "Yes, the boys are safe." "Yes," he stopped in front of me. "You did it," he said. "You built the case, you sent the file, you ended it." "We did it," I said, "together." Cormac looked at me. For a long moment he did not speak, then he said, "I have been trying to protect you for 3 years. I have been trying to keep you out of my world. But you built a weapon, you tracked a network, you walked into a condemned building with nothing but a file and the willingness to see it through." He paused. "You don't need me to protect you." "No," I said, "I don't. But I want to stay anyway, if you will let me." I looked at him. The watch was still on his wrist. The compass was in his pocket. The list was on the counter at home, with his handwriting on the back. "I have been waiting for you to say that for 3 years," I said. Yes, the night ended with paperwork, statements, evidence logs. A conversation with a detective who looked at Cormac and me and decided not to ask too many questions. Piers was charged with conspiracy. Rock was held without bail. The file was in the hands of people who would use it. I drove home alone. Cormac followed in his car. When I pulled into the driveway, the porch light was on. The neighbor had left it on for me. I walked inside. The house was quiet. The boys were asleep. I checked the locks, front door, back door, windows. Then I sat on the couch and waited. The door opened. Cormac walked in. "You didn't lock it," he said. "I knew you were coming." He sat beside me, not close enough to touch, close enough to feel. "Kit asked me to give this back to you," he said. He held out the compass. I took it. The glass was warm. "He said it works now," Cormac said. "Does it?" "I don't know, but he told me to tell you that it knows where you are. That is all it needs to know." I held the compass. The needle was still frozen, but it did not matter where it pointed. It mattered whose hands held it. The next morning, the boys found us on the couch. Kit climbed onto Cormac's lap before either of us was fully awake. The twins appeared in the doorway, hair disheveled, watching with the careful attention I had taught them. Fen was last. He stood at the edge of the living room, the list in his hand. "You stayed," he said. "Yes," Cormac said. "For how long?" Cormac looked at me. I looked at him. "As long as they'll have me," Cormac said. Fen walked to the couch. He held out the list. "Turn it over," he said. Cormac turned it over. On the back, in Fen's handwriting, below Cormac's single word, "Yes." "I wrote that this morning," Fen said. "Before you woke up, I wanted to make sure you knew." Cormac looked at the paper, then at Fen. "I know," he said. That evening, we sat on the porch. The boys were inside, watching a movie. The sound of their laughter drifted through the open window. I was holding the compass. Cormac was sitting beside me. "It's still broken," I said. "Kit says it works." "Kit is 4. He thinks the toaster is magic." Cormac smiled. It was the first time I had seen him smile in 3 years. "Maybe it is," he said. "Maybe we just don't understand the toaster." I leaned against him, not heavily, just enough to feel the warmth of another person beside me. "I don't know what happens next," I said. "Neither do I. I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to trust that you will stay." Cormac was quiet. Then he said, "I know. I don't know how to prove that I will, but I can show you, one day at a time." I looked at the compass. Kit had been right. It did not point north, but it pointed where we needed to go. And for the first time in 3 years, I did not need to know exactly where that was. I just needed to know I would not be going alone. If you have ever been asked a question you had already answered 3 years ago without knowing you had answered it, you know why I opened my mouth and nothing came out. Because Fen did not ask me that night. He asked Cormac. They were standing in the hallway, Kit beside him, the twins behind them. I was in the kitchen doorway. I did not interfere. "Are you coming home?" Fen asked. Not, "Are you staying?" Not, "Will you be here tomorrow?" "Are you coming home?" Cormac looked at me. I did not answer. I did not signal. This was his choice. It had always been his choice. And Cormac Veld, who had spent 3 years running from the thing he wanted most, finally stopped running. "Yes," he said, "I'm coming home." The compass was on the counter. The list was in Fen's pocket. The watch was still on Cormac's wrist. 4 boys looked at their father, their fathers. And for the first time in 3 years, the house was full.